Well, good afternoon, good morning to some of you, good late afternoon to some of our European counterparts and broader those that are abroad. My name is John Carroll. I'm the CEO and founder of the Service Council. Welcome to today's segment of the inService podcast series, hosted by the Service Council, brought to you today by CareAR, a really strong partner of the Service Council. We are incredibly grateful to have Sam Whiteberg on our advisory board, the president of that organization. And today, I'm incredibly pleased to be joined by his colleague, Lance Anderson. Lance is the vice president of industrial solutions at CareAR. Lance, we'll ask you for an introduction shortly, but a quick Vanna White wave.
Hey, everybody.
Warm welcome. So from today's point of view, we'd like to make these discussions interactive. Lance has a lot of industry background, a lot of experience in this space, and he's going to be sharing some of those viewpoints today. If you wanted to submit some questions, some reactions, some comments of your own, maybe even post some questions of your own for your own organization inside the comments section, we can create a discussion here. And we'll try to get an immediate reaction. So if you have something for Lance or myself, we'll try to pause and make sure we do our best to practice what we preach in terms of customer responsiveness and get you a response. Today's podcast will be recorded. It will be accessible on whatever platform you use, whether it's YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Overcast, whatever podcast subscription platform you have, you can find it there. You can find it on LinkedIn as well, and you can find it at the Service Council's website as a resource moving forward. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in here. Lance,
Yep.
I just introduced you in terms of role and function. Could you
Sure.
more broadly introduce yourself, your career, a little bit about yourself, and your role at CareAR? That'd be great.
Absolutely. So I'm the vice president of industrial solutions for CareAR, which means I have the fun job of applying our technology to a myriad of field service use cases. Prior to CareAR, I did run my own consultancy, and that consultancy was focused on applying augmented reality and AI in the industrial space, predominantly customer support, field service, manufacturing, heavy machinery, those roles. Prior to that, I've been in the augmented reality space for a while now, since about 2014, which makes me a little bit of an OG in this fledgling industry, and the application of augmented reality specifically in the enterprise and industrial use space. Prior to that, I was in industry, right? I was designing warehouse systems and software and installing conveyor systems and supporting all of that. So I have bled the blood. I have cried the tears. I have felt the pain of many of those on the other side of the call today. And so I really enjoy bringing this type of technology and applying it specifically to field service, which is obviously near and dear to my heart, as I just said. And now, and CareAR. So let me, if you don't, I'll go into exactly who CareAR is.
Please do.
So CareAR, we are a service management platform, technology platform that leverages augmented reality and artificial intelligence to drive better outcomes for our clients. What does that really mean? It means we're applying augmented reality at the point of work, right? And so where work is getting done, where heads up, hands free, hands on work is getting done, where the instructions stop, work happens, results happen, and service is executed. And so we provide that within 3 modules of software. We have an Assist, which is a remote augmented reality collaboration. You can imagine COVID was a boon for that type of technology when folks couldn't travel. How do we collaborate in a more intuitive and real way? We also have our CareAR Instruct, which is our self-serve, self-solve part of our module, right? So providing, let's say a chatbot provides a suggestive diagnosis process or a fix process to a customer, or even to a new technician in the field. We have our Experience Builder, which is the content builder of those Instruct experiences, which is really kind of first in the industry in terms of codeless content creation. Think about the shop boss being able to actually create this type of step-by-step augmented reality instruction and deliver it right out to their field techs, right? Not some big year-long, multi tens of thousands of dollars content creation. So it really does bring content to the actual users for the first time, which is great. And then, of course, we have our AI insights, CareAR insights, which takes all of this data that we capture. So not just knowledge that's there, but think about the video of when someone is performing a fix, all of that content adding up iteratively in the thousands and thousands and thousands of gigabytes, and now tagging and capturing all that information for future AI insights, right? You have to capture your data now, as the AI insights are a bit of a laggard, right? You have to have content and data to get those things to you. So that's part of our solution. So that's what we provide. Long story short, what we provide our clients is a platform by which to reduce costs, to leverage a new and younger workforce, and to really drive customer ROI and satisfaction.
And that's a great segue to circle back to the topic of today's podcast, which is 5 ways to drive value and innovation now, right? This is a precarious time for many organizations. There's a lot of financial headwinds. There's a lot of geopolitical activities that are causing craziness everywhere around the world. So we're going to talk about 5 critical ways that Lance and I iterated together around co-creating, ways that you can innovate and derive value right now for your organization. And, I just want to reflect on some of the introduction that you made there, the concept of visual support technologies and AI and all these intelligence platforms that are coming together. It's just really critical right now in terms of those organizations that are trying to mature towards that predictive and proactive and maybe even outcome-based services methodologies where everybody's kind of pointed right now. And the notion of being able to apply guided or scripted workflows, the opportunity to focus on anomaly detection and looking at proactively looking for those anomalies to support your agents when they're in the field couldn't be more critical right now. And we think that visual support technologies is a prerequisite, if you will, of embarking on that proactive and predictive journey. So let's go ahead and segue forward. So, we do a lot of research, Lance. One of the recent research surveys that we did is the 2023 Service Leaders Agenda Survey. And we had about 100 service executives respond, and we asked them, what are the key focus areas for the next 12 months? And 1 through 4 was service operations performance management, service innovation, expansion of the service portfolio, and customer experience initiatives. Now, this is different from previous years. If I go backwards, 2020 was a year of business continuity. Cost took the top prize in terms of number 1. 2021, 2022 ended up being revenue oriented. Organizations were turning their attention towards growth. This year, we're kind of labeling it in a bifurcated way. Internally, it's a year of preservation. We've all heard the talent crisis, the capacity issues, the hunt for talent, the battle for talent, the war for talent. How do we succession plan? How do we plan for retirement? How do we avoid engagement issues? So from an internal perspective, we're hearing a lot about a preservation mindset. On the external, we're hearing the opposite. We're hearing innovation and growth. A lot of organizations are seeking to avoid commoditization in their customer experience. They're looking to further derive revenue from service as a line of business. And so that's kind of how we're looking at the year as we reflect on the data. I'm curious to get your reaction. Are you hearing similar things in market?
I am, and I'll tell you what I hear exactly that. And then when we get into the C-level discussions of, well, here's our proposal, the pushback is, that's great, but right now I need results today. And if this means we have to push out the word innovation, everybody wants to do it in digital transformation, and folks need to do that. What we're seeing is, and I've seen this throughout my career, and I'm sure many folks on this one, is these type of macroeconomic disruptions, real or not, whatever side of the fence you're on, they tend to stop innovation. They tend to kill these multi-year projects, right? And like in AI, you're putting in AI and you want all that takes time, not just to put in the software and to capture the data, but to get enough data to harvest predictive, right? That takes time. And these types of disruptions tend to stop that in its tracks. Now, all of a sudden, budget gets pulled, resources change, people leave the company, and here we have these, half-done projects, right? So what we're talking about is, well, how do we deal with the reality of 2023 financially and still stay on that path and move forward, right? So, but I'll answer it very specifically internally.
Sure.
In terms of preservation. Yes, it's acute this year, right? It's this whole economic, it's exacerbated the issue of where is our talent? We can't hire anybody. We have attrition. We have all that. But is that story really that different than it's been the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Not really. So what we talk to folks about is looking at your innovative technologies to solve this problem, not for immediate, but forever. Stop looking at young, uneducated, or not educated, untrained talent that seems to turn over. Turn that into your workflow. Turn that into your talent and create a system by which to harvest and manage that and leverage it financially, right? So if you can use lower cost techs, maybe even third parties at sometimes, as effectively as you can a 20 or 30-year-old guy or girl who's been in your organization and has that knowledge, if you can do that, and then trumpet it out there to your clients and say, I'm going to do the same or better in terms of results for less. And so pick a technology that can enable this type of talent, young turnover talent, and train them not in the classroom, but while they're doing their work, always on. We call it always on training, like a little telementor sitting on your shoulder. And we call predictive AI, and that's the tap on the shoulder that says, hey, take a look at this over here. We heard, a sound, our speakers heard a sound that sounds like the bearings might be wearing out that a human's not going to hear. And how do we suggest to that technician that while they're fixing something, maybe they check this out over here? It's that kind of stuff where technology is actually working with the human being in the field, where we're going to see these results.
I love the discussion here. You to kind of summarize what I'm hearing is similar to what we've been preaching, which is this notion of elevating your digital transformation to creating a what's called a technician agnostic platform, right? That
Correct.
you've got this aging demographic with this empirical and historical knowledge that's leaving quickly. Let's capture it quick. You've got this young demographic that's coming in, less engaged. You might train them for 2 years and then they leave, and that's a big challenge in terms of the investments. And then you've got this opportunity, as you frame it, to look at lower cost resources and perhaps upskill and reskill, and then think about the expansion of your service network to include third party independents, franchisees, dealers in many cases. And as the further you go away from, the manufacturer of an asset and the customer on the center, right? The further you go, the more complex and disconnected you get. So the way that we see organizations trying to address this is by creating this, what we call a technician agnostic platform, which helps with basically leveling the playing field for anybody within the service experience at the moment of truth in front of the customer. So we've been talking about that for quite a while. And great segue. So let's go into the 5 reasons here, the 5 ways that we've framed here.
Everybody loves top 5 list.
Let's go. So number 1, we framed it as this concept of shifting left. So service organizations are obviously enthusiastically, because of cost reduction opportunities, they're meeting customers on their channel of choice, right? Which has quickly become self-service or remote service. A lot of customers don't want to wait for the technician to come on a dispatch scenario. So there's an opportunity to derive greater accuracy of triage and diagnosis, which can do 2 things from our perspective. It can reduce the time to resolution, so happier customers, and you've got that cost reduction. In many instances, you can avoid a dispatch altogether and remotely resolve. And then second to that, you've got this increasing workforce utilization, right? So capacity challenges, we just talked a little bit about it. When you have greater accuracy and preparation upon or prior to arrival, you're better prepared to resolve the issue while on site. So the time to resolution, issue resolution time goes down as the customer experience goes up, right? Of course. Um, are you witnessing these types of things becoming core to some of your customers in the segments that you all support?
Oh, 100%. It's core to CareAR. I mean, it's really the foundation of what our technology is trying to help with, and that's to create a more intuitive human experience through technology and a collaboration that again is more human. Human beings gather 80% of all information visually, right? And so everybody's been a technician on this call. I know it. Everybody's been on a phone asking someone to describe what the problem is. And the example I always use is just imagine you're 3,000 miles across the country and you're trying to explain to your mother how to set up her modem and do it on a phone. God bless you, right? What I say is now make that visual instead of trying to you take the vocabulary out of it, right? Don't put in the Cat5 cable into the HDMI input and all this kind of stuff. No, go have a visual point of view sharing video where you can circle something with a little green circle and say that port, and then a little arrow says that cable. Put it in there. That's it. A red X over the port you're not supposed to use. I don't care what language you speak. I don't care your education level. You know what that means. And this type of collaboration that takes the technical jargon out of the conversation, that lets you visually know real time that you're in front of the right object, that you're in front of the right piece of equipment, not just to fix things, but to diagnose, right? And so one of CareAR's, our largest client, Xerox, they have 6,000 technicians in the field, and they installed CareAR and they used ServiceNow FSM at the same time. And it was all about their technicians, how to drive a better first-time fix rate when their technicians got to site. What they actually learned was they started to use the technology when the customer called in. How do we diagnose what's wrong? Here's what, oh, my printer just doesn't work. The ink is jammed. Well, instead of just going through a blind checklist where your L1 agent is just checking the boxes, asking questions, what model number, all that, it's let's have a visual collaboration. Show me. Oh, wait a minute. That's not it. It's can you take a look over here and show me? Yep, I see what it is, right? It's the injector part. So we just diagnosed it accurately, quickly, and now we'll get the right part, the right technician with the right tool set, and potentially line up an expert, remote expert, that is going to help with the finer points of putting this in, all lined up, scheduled, so that you get that done the first time. So obviously, avoiding the truck roll is the thing that everybody wants. The clients, from a revenue perspective, all that kind of stuff. When that can't happen, things break. They need to be replaced. You need to make sure you've got the right person, the right part, and you get it done the first time. Now your client is satisfied. You're satisfied. You've minimized your costs, and you move forward with that. So that's what we see. That's what our technology helps with. And John, bring me back down to earth here, and we can knock off a couple of these other five.
No, that's number one. That's number one. So a quick capturing and summary: shifting left, meeting the customers where they want to be met. It obviously creates a faster customer response time, perhaps even issue resolution. It also helps with avoiding costs or eliminating cost by way of more accurately triaging and diagnosing the issue, so you arrive with the right part, the right skill set, the right technician. But also that they understand the scenario when they're going in terms of scenario planning and what resources they need, and so on and so forth. So shifting left was the number one way that we can drive innovation now. Let's go to number two. So we do an adjacent research survey called the Voice of the Field Service Engineer. And we're about to launch it actually in April. And we get several thousand technicians that respond, and we ask them a day in the life. What do they like, dislike? What do they spend most of their day doing? What would they ask management for? Are they satisfied with the career? There were some alarming trends coming out of it, one of which ties back to the talent availability issue. I'll leave it at that. We saw a huge lack of engagement at the Gen Z, Gen Y, and Gen X level, which is about 75% typically of a workforce. So that was 2/3 of the community, that demographic, was planning to leave the profession and not maintain
Mhm.
the profession for the duration of their career. So that was one of the alarming trends. But one of the other things that came through in the data was that the engineers unilaterally agree that the knowledge required, that the technology sophistication,
Yeah.
that the services, the products that are being serviced in general, they're just more complex. They require more skill set. They require more training. They require more technical skill set. And so when we look at the areas that they don't enjoy in their day-to-day job, it's paperwork and administrative tasks is always
Yeah.
going to be number one. But number two, right behind it, was the time they spend finding information.
Sure.
So the number two area we're framing for our listening audience in terms of opportunities to innovate now is this notion of the parallel that exists between customers and employees. So how can we create an effortless experience for our workforce, just like we're trying to do for our customers, right? So we're trying to eliminate the hurdles, the obstacles, and all the things that drive up customer effort in terms of seeking and receiving support. And the same should be done for employees. And obviously, we all agree and subscribe to the theory that employee sentiment is a strong indicator of customer sentiment. You've got increased retention when you eliminate all the friction in both experiences, and of course, the whole upskilling and reskilling and leveling of the playing field can help you empower that expanded network as well. So, can you talk just a little
Yep.
bit about the role of the field service engineer? Are you hearing similar things within your customers?
I am. What we hear is what are the reasons given that a technician leaves that company or the field altogether, right? So put your tech hat on. If any or all of you have been out in the field, right? Why were you doing that job? You like to fix things, right? You want to feel confident that you can fix it, that you're the man, you're the woman, you're the one who can solve this problem for the client. You want your client to be happy. You want a high five at the end, right? You're partners, right? You're partners,
Yeah.
and you're the one in the field, right? You're facing the customer. We have a problem. The system's down, a lot of pressure. You want to be the hero, right?
Yep.
So let's
Yep.
give these folks the tools by which to be the hero. And if
Yep.
we think that we're going to put a technician in classroom training, train them on these very complex electromechanical, now very computer centric systems, by the time we train them, we have iterated that device. It has a new system. You're never going to be able to catch up. So we have to flip the script. You need to use technology that connects your knowledge base, right, to the work that's being done, and
Yep.
provide your folks with the right tools. They don't want a manual and a wrench. They want a smartphone, right? They want to have content delivered via video, via augmented reality, right? Overlaying, showing me what I need to do on the actual work that's getting done. Technicians, what we need to do is shrink the data by which they need to choose from. And that's
Yeah.
where predictive AI and insights come in. If there's a world of issues that could be wrong with this machine, let's use predictive analysis and data and probability to say, you know what, these are the three things that most likely are causing the problem. Let's start there, and then let the technician with their dexterous hands and dexterous brains make that right choice. Right? Let's just limit the world by which the choices they need to make, so they can execute more confidently and more effectively. Right? So it's the tool, it's the amount of information that we give them. And then the third thing we hear from technicians is, no one ever listens to me when we tend to do the same wrong things over and over again. So make sure that your technology has a way to capture the work that's being done and the data, the results from what's actually working, and feed that back into your system, right? Not just by a suggestion, the technician says, hey, I have a good idea, but iteratively watching a video and capturing that video of the same type of repair, the same type of fix, and noticing the nuances. That's only something a computer can do, right?
Yep.
Iterative to now make that prediction. Say, hey, look, we've connected these two or three things that the human wouldn't connect, and maybe this can help you either eliminate this problem in your product development, or provide a tool or a training that is going to make sure that we nail that the first time and we don't wait to fix this. So I'll summarize it: the right tools, right, the right amount of content, and the feedback loop to make your technicians be the hero on site. They want to be the hero. Let's let them be the hero, and will provide a better job satisfaction, longer retention. Your clients are going to be happier, right? And that bleeds into, that is your product, field service product. They are your technicians and the results that they bring. And let's not forget that. So let's make our product modernized, and let's make them effective, and let's listen to the field.
Outstanding viewpoints there, Lance. Thank you very much for offering your opinion on the topic. I think just in quick summary for our listening audience, the number 2 was seeking to eliminate friction and looking at the parallel that exists between customer and employees, right? That the way that we measure satisfaction, the way that we're trying to create proactive experiences, and that would be the number 2 opportunity to innovate now. We have a couple of comments from our listening and now participating audience. Thank you so much. We're going to get an instant reaction here. We've got Christopher Adamson, who asked the question, Lance, what approaches has your organization taken to help ensure field adoption of the technology to support driving the organization's desired value from its use in the service request process? I think this is a great question, by the way. I'd love to get your viewpoints.
Field adoption is key, right? So the way that as CareAR, we've approached this is by, as I've said, I've probably repeated this a few times now, is that we create very human intuitive tools, right? So that just by the nature of augmented reality being, I hold something up, I get a red X on something and a green check. It's quick, it's fast, I understand it. It gets me right back to what I need to do, right? So that's good. In terms of adoption, I think when we roll out field service management software, or we roll out knowledge management, and it quite often it just feels like, here's more guardrails, here's more data you got to input, here's more paperwork, whether it's digital paperwork or real paper, it's still paperwork, right? Yep. Here's more stuff that you need to do so that we can feed our big monster machines behind us so that we can tell you what to do. No. Participation. So if your field is participating in the development and rollout of this technology, then they're part of it. And adoption and knowledge transfer and all that change, that just happens. And they're excited about it. So we talked about content creation. So creating instructions for field use, right? If that's created from the perspective of the actual field technician, which is kind of the deep end of the pool, or at least the management, the business unit owner that can create step-by-step instructions, a little bit of video, a little bit of augmented reality, a little bit of data delivered digitally on a phone or a tablet while someone's holding it up. Now it feels real. It's not classroom training. It's none of that stuff. So they're involved. We have some users who actually have the field technicians create content. So quick example, we're in the field, we come up to an HVAC system, right? And there's an issue with it. You follow all the manuals, you get it, you've fixed it. It won't turn back on, right? What do? Well, who's the manager? We call Sheila. She's been fixing these machines for 30 years. She's like, oh yeah, go ask the homeowner for a bag of ice and put it on the thermocoupler. Like, what? That's not a manual. Well, the thermocoupler is still overheated and it's tripping. It's not going to turn on. So lower the temperature on that, flick it. Yeah, you made the right fix, something like that, right? So how do you're not going to write a manual about that. That's not going to be in a manual, but make a quick video checklist or whatever it is, serve that out to your folks, real rudimentary, field tech type content, and involve everybody. So what this customer did was have the field technicians actually film something, says, we don't have data on this part number, this machine. I'm going to film myself fixing this, right? Yep. And step 1, step 2, step 3, and they'll film it. And until they have a better, more professional version of that fix, that becomes the content that lives on the knowledge management system. So it's a self-feeding thing. Now technicians are like, wait a minute, I'm being heard. I'm the expert. I have a video that's part of this thing. Oh man, that just flips the script. And now all of a sudden you've got all this video coming in and you say, okay, everybody, time out. You're not all Francis Ford Coppola out there. You're actually field techs. Let's get back to the job. But I think you get my point. I joke a little bit on the last point, but it's about involving everybody in the content creation and this process to make this kind of self-healing, forever growing content repository of knowledge that is done in a visual way and that others can access. And that's what this type of technology can bring.
Including the front line,
Yeah,
involve the front line
yeah,
in this change. We reflect on the research data all the time, and one of the data points that screamed to me was that 4 out of 10 field technicians didn't feel like they had a role in innovation at their company,
yeah,
and 6 out of 10, even worse, didn't feel like management listened and reacted to their input to improve the business. So if you're leaving them out of that change management process, two things are going to happen. You're not going to get the view from the front line, and secondly, you're going to discourage them in terms of their sentiment, right? So when it comes time to adopt, it's going to be the new flavor of the month, another feature and functionality in the field, another mobile tool, and it's not going to be something that's utilized.
yeah,
And so the other thing that I would cite is that we continue to hear challenges with respect to integrating some of the technologies. There's been a lot of modernization efforts, but threading it into the process workflows has
yeah.
been one of the greatest cited issues in terms of adoption and just making it part of the family instead of, Hawaii's like barely part of the family. It's over there on the coast. It's an island, right? So how do we bring Hawaii closer to the continental U.S., right? So I think there's an element of integrating the technology into process workflows that there's still some improvement on that needs to happen. Thank you very much, Christopher. Great
Yeah.
discussion.
Good question.
Let's go to another one here. Juan Cruz, thank you very much. How deep is your product? You talked about some of your customers.
Mhm.
You sprinkled little fairy
Sure.
dust here across the discussion.
Yep.
Xerox was one of the major brands, 6,000 technicians, very complex. But how deep is your product in the medical device space? How much penetration do you have in that particular segment?
So it's good. I'll split. So there's the manufacturing creation of medical devices, right?
Mhm.
Um, and 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 then there's the servicing of medical
Yep.
devices.
Yep.
I'll tell you, in the U.S., it is still very difficult servicing equipment inside the four walls of a hospital.
Yep.
Outside of the United States, nope, it's pretty easy. So we have to regionalize where this question is coming from. But think about an MRI machine or an ultrasound machine or what have you. The calibration and the simple fix or maintenance of these machines. Um, our technology, let's apply what we were just talking about. Let's make it simple and intuitive for someone who doesn't have the training by which to fix this. So the nurse practitioner, right? Let's make sure that we provide instructions that are intuitive and simple with augmented reality in a digital way that allows them to do the calibration, record that calibration to make sure it's correct, and then make sure you're providing instructions that are what we call self-validating. So validated work, meaning step one, flick the switch up. Step two, well, wait a minute. Our camera, our computer vision saw that switch didn't go up. Guess what? You don't get step two. Nope, step one wasn't done correct. So if you validate this, you can use technicians that are trained to provide the services and not maintain this equipment to actually maintain the equipment, right? In a way that more uptime, more use of the equipment, more revenue for the doctor or the facility in and of itself, right? So that's
Yeah.
super upfront. But yes, sometimes this equipment goes down. This equipment is very usually bespoke. Yeah, ultrasounds and MRIs, there's thousands of them. But some of the bigger equipment, what are there? 2,000 devices globally. Think about Siemens. They're a client of ours. They create some amazing technology, and we had a use case where they had to change out a light bulb in the middle of this gigantic machine. Follow the instructions to take it all apart, blah, 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 put it back together. That process was quite often done. You had a little extra washer, you got a little extra part left over. That doesn't work in a medical device, right? So again, validated work, taking them through this process. And that was actually for the field technician, the well-trained technician. It's just super complex. Every machine is slightly different. So if you don't have this contextual information as you do it, the rework was where all the loss was. It was
Mm.
lost in the money to pay the technician to do it again. And of course, machine downtime. So that's where we are. There's a lot of at-home technology that we're looking into right now.
Mhm.
As medical devices come into the home, folks spend less time in the hospital. Well, calibrating a device, again, this is actually the customer, the consumer. doing this work as opposed to sending a technician out, right? So the viability of sending certain medical equipment into the home is dependent upon the customer being able to calibrate and service it at its most rudimentary, basic stuff that needs to be done. So if our type of technology isn't imparted on that product, it's never going to get into the home. So home care and all that kind of stuff. So that's where we're headed. Where we are right now is providing a fantastic visual and validated workflow for components that are in the field today. And the last thing I'll say about this is I'm really excited. This is something that gets me excited is in the third world countries. So, in Asia and Africa, right? They don't have medical where we are today in terms of hospitals and all this kind of stuff. But this type of technology is going to allow them to skip that whole build hospitals, build all these facilities, bring everybody to the hospital, to just taking medicine to where it's needed. Right. And they're going to skip that huge infrastructure thing that took us 30, 40 years. And they're going to be able to bring smaller mobile medical devices to the smaller villages and the areas of poverty where it's needed, where travel is just not even a choice. So that's where the technology is going. And that's something that makes me super excited as we do a little more than just, make sure that our air conditions are running. Sometimes there is some life-saving things that we can do. So I'm excited about the medical device space. And as regulation comes up to speed with the technologies we're providing, you'll see more and more of this. But the pressure is there from the consumer and from the users to drive the regulations to make the change to accept this type of technology.
Outstanding. Thank you for your response. And thank you to Juan for your participation. Juan Cruz is an advisory board, one of our recent appointees to our advisory board. So Juan, thank you for that. So again, we're talking about 5 ways to innovate now. We've talked about number 1 was shifting left, right? Meeting the customer where they want to be met, remote, self-service. And there's many opportunities for cost reduction and workforce utilization and accuracy of triage and diagnosis that can result from that. The number 2 area was the parallel that exists with respect to customers and employees, right? Being proactive, guiding and scripting workflows, looking for anomalies, and then scripting and proactively supporting both customers and employees. And there's so many parallels with which exist in terms of removing friction and creating an effortless experience for both, and how there's a dependency between employee sentiment and customer sentiment. So that's number 1 and number 2. Number 3 is just an overarching cost reduction opportunity. And we talk about meeting the customer where they are. Well, we project that dispatch costs are somewhere, depending on where the current gasoline rate is, somewhere in the range of $250 to $2,500. And really, it could scale even further than that when you get into some of the more complex industries where it's multi-day, sometimes even multi-site visits, requires travel. It starts to scale out of control. So the cost of dispatch is the single greatest cost to a service organization, quite honestly. And when you're avoiding dispatch, it obviously reduces and eliminates cost. Another area is the workforce efficiency slant that we've already talked about a little bit. The number 1 manner that FSEs are relying to become unstuck when they're in the field is phoning a friend. And we've done some cost projection analysis. By the way, phoning a friend, 80% of the time, field technicians rely on it.
Yeah.
Crazy. Cray, as my kids say. And when that happens, 2 technicians get stuck if you don't have that internal tech support arm. And if 20% of your staff gets stuck daily and the average duration is 15 minutes of that call, we've done some cost analysis breakdown, and it's about $1,000 per technician on an annualized basis. So if you have 500 technicians, that's $500,000 in cost that you can add, cost savings, I should say, that you can add to your bottom line in terms of removing that dependency on phoning a friend. Are you witnessing some of these trends in terms of, when you're thinking about, you're talking about some really cool technology and how it's enabling some of your customers? When it's time to build an ROI analysis and a total cost of ownership, those are just some of the cost reductions. Are you seeing those? Are you seeing others? What are you seeing and hearing?
I like the slant of this question, because when we talk about avoiding the truck roll, and predominantly in our minds, the customer has solved their own problem,
Yep.
right? That's what we mean. Okay, fine. Sometimes the truck has to roll. We all know it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't own trucks if we didn't. Truck has to roll. So now you have a technician on site, whether it's your company technician, a third party, what have you. So what are their methods by which to figure things out when they don't go as planned? Where do they go? Do they go to your field service management system? Do they just literally pull out the manual and flip through the pages? Where's your knowledge? Where's all your knowledge managed? Okay, that's step one. It's somewhere. It can be a manual. It can be in a spreadsheet. It can be in someone's brain. How often is that really happening? Or you could own ServiceNow or Oracle and have all this stuff, right? But how are these technicians going to search for that information? All right. What our platform does is provide intelligent search. So is it a part number? Is it an issue? What have you? And then it's about, is that flat data? Is it just a PDF of something you want to read? Or have we created a step-by-step AR-based visual instruction to walk you through this? So you also have to analyze, so where they're getting their data, fine. Can we convert that data into more intuitive, step-by-step, sometimes validated instructions? That really depends on how often these things happen. The 80-20 rule, right? If that's a problem you focus 80% of the time, yeah, let's put the effort into creating some content around that. If it's a pure anomaly, well, maybe that's not worth it, all right? Now, that's step one. Step two is, how is this information relayed to that person? Is it relayed in a way that they can be successful doing a checklist, or versus seeing visually how to actually walk through a step-by-step process, right? And it's all about, making them the expert, providing them tools by which to self-solve. It's all about self-solving. That's how you avoid that secondary L3 update. And when it does happen, when your knowledge base doesn't solve it, or they can't find the information, or quite frankly, the time has gone on so long where they're trying to self-solve, where you need them to make that phone call. Let's make that phone call visual. Let's make it a collaboration, a visual collaboration. Let's make it faster. And when that person calls in, can an L1 technician, and not your L3, can your L1 technician help solve that problem? Let's try to make sure that we have the access to the knowledge pieces to do that. And the last part of this, I would say, is when that expert needs to be called in, make sure it can be done remotely. All right, that second truck roll, you see 3 or 4 vans show up, gosh, you can just see the numbers just in the money flying out, right? Can it be done remotely? Let's make sure we have the tools by which to do it remotely. And let's capture what was done so that we can hopefully put something in place to avoid it going forward. I'll quote, pick any analyst, they're going to have it. Gartner put something out recently where they said in the end of 2021, only 20% of field service companies were using augmented reality and AI tools. And they said by 2025, it's going to be over 50%. But the winning tool set is going to be an AR AI platform that can connect to your field service management software and to your knowledge base, because that's drawing that stuff in, the right thing to do next and what should be done, and then delivering it in a visual way that is quick and human intuitive to understand and execute. That's the key. So AR, just for AR, doesn't do much, right? It has to have knowledge behind it, and it has to be recorded and captured into your field service platform so that things are done compliant, that they're done safe, and they're being captured by which you can charge your revenue, charge your client for it, or what have you, right? So by choosing a platform that can connect those two core pieces, that's how you can deliver a better experience, minimize your costs, lessen the time on those calls, and be able to hopefully avoid those calls by providing self-solve technical knowledge pieces before the next iteration of this issue.
Outstanding. So thank you for your discussion there. So we're just talking about the number 3 opportunity to innovate now, which is this opportunity of seeking to understand what are those really near-term cost reduction opportunities within your business, and how can you project those savings across your organization. And we gave a couple of examples. There's many more that we'd be happy to follow up directly with you to talk through. So that was number 3. Now let's move on to number 4 here. We've got training and knowledge capture. So we've talked about the enhancements to the efficiency of your throughput, right? You've got customer issues coming inbound. Well, if you can remotely resolve them, that's throughput, right? That's customer issue throughput. If you have to dispatch, well, if you can do it more intelligently and enable your workforce to more intelligently solve issues, that's, again, throughput. So that is always and has always been the number one area of anticipated benefit from a visual support technologies transformation. The number 2 is the training and knowledge capture opportunity. So, inputting that into the organization, creating that knowledge base, to your point, and leveraging that from 2 perspectives. I'm going to save the second perspective because it's our number 5, if you will. But the first part is really around enabling the workforce with information to better improve their day to day in terms of training and knowledge. And that can reduce the time to value for new technicians and onboarded field service engineers. A number of different capacities in which that can make an impact. Are you hearing the training and knowledge aspect often mentioned within your customers and prospects?
We do. So it's interesting. Our clients, the purchasing budget for our type of technology, it's about a 50-50 split between the learning and knowledge owners and the actual business field service business unit owners. And it's so companies come to us, and those are 2 very different perspectives, right? So the business unit, they've got, they're just getting beaten down for the cost, right? Lower your cost, do more with less. The training unit is coming at us saying, it's not working. We touched on this earlier. The complexity of what we're trying to of the machinery that we're trying to fix and the systems we're trying to put together, it's so complex that we can't even train on this stuff. So what do? We need different technologies. So they come at us, but the answer is still pretty similar. It's about content. So CareAR provides a tool set that allows you to do that expert to expert collaboration if you have to go all the way there. That's kind of the one end of the spectrum. And the other is this self-authoring instructional, self-solve, self-serve, self-diagnose content. And when I talk to learning departments, I said, let's you can keep the word learning in there, but let's actually stop training and start enabling. Stop thinking about it as a training, because a training is this like finite thing that happens. Have they been trained? Right? Is it over? No, training never stops. Education never stops. Experience is built over iterations and learnings, right? So the idea of what we do is taking those experiences and pooling them together in a way that is accessible to each and every technician if and when they need it, right? So don't let them happenstance their way to 20 years of iterations to finally get all that knowledge. It's pool that knowledge in a way that's accessible. That's what I talk to the learning departments about, is pool it and make it accessible at the point of work. Like we talk about, what do you do when you run into a problem? That's what I talk to learning departments about, is you're there. You're not done yet. It's not over for you when the classroom ends. You're in the field with everybody else, right? You have stakes in this. And that learning, providing that knowledge, that little telementor on the shoulder, as we like to say, that's enablement. That enables a technician to maybe they just need a reminder, right? And maybe it's a confidence thing. It's like, what was the, I don't need augmented reality to show me a wrench that's turning like this, right? That's kind of ridiculous. But what you need is, what is the tensile strength or the pressure by which I need to set this valve, right? How tight do I need to make this? I just need a reminder. Oh, is this a 211A or is this a 211B model? And what are those differences? What are the little nuances? And you know what? It's not just the new technician that benefits from that. Quite frankly, it's the 20-year guy or girl who's been out there working and says, I know how to do this. And they don't even follow the instructions, but they missed the nuance. And now they have to redo the work, right? So errors are made in ignorance and they're made in the mundane. And and that's why I talk to learning, by putting this in, and there's a little bit of compliance by making them follow a certain process, but also the accessibility to this knowledge enables technicians to always learn, always improve, solve, again, become the hero in front of the client.
Outstanding, outstanding. And knowledge capture is there's two kind of applications of its value to the organization. One of which
Yeah.
is the training empowerment that happens,
Mhm.
the workforce gain from it, right? The other is that it can be part of a closed loop process
Yes.
where you're empowering future product and service design, right? The whole design for
Yep.
serviceability. So the number five way to innovate now is around commercial revenue. So one of which is the knowledge capture that empowers better product and service design. I just mentioned that.
Mhm.
The other is we see a lot of organizations, again, circling back to externally, this is a year of innovation and growth. We see a lot of service executives prioritizing the customer experience in terms of how do we avoid commoditization? How do we improve the experience so that we can monetize at a greater rate?
Mhm.
We can convert customers at a greater rate and be differentiated in our approach. But second to that, we see a lot of service organizations seeking to compartmentalize their service offerings, and when and where they have, visual support technologies and can do proactive and predictive support experiences, that might be offered under a certain service level agreement and might be a, 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 a proactive approach, a proactive service
Mhm.
level agreement that might be above a typical service level agreement. So the commercial revenue arm is another huge one, and as we see organizations turn their way towards innovation and growth, we think that this is another area of
Yep.
potential impact. Are you hearing similar things? Or is this
Yep.
empowering commercial revenue growth within your customers?
Sure. I mean, I'll start with this. So Xerox, who actually purchased CareAR after being CareAR's biggest client, recognized that not only could this help us internally, but we can sell this, right? We can sell this technology as part of our maintenance contracts, right? Or as a maintenance contract upgrade to our clients. So why would they do that? Like, think about the old structure. Here's your maintenance contract, $100,000 a year, whatever, right? And here's the resolution, here's the downtime we agreed to, here's the uptime, mean time to fix that we all agree on, and then we just, we arm wrestle over that, and it is what it is. So if the contract like that, if I'm a client, I pick up the phone, I'm like, get yourself out here as fast as possible and fix my problem. Well, Lance, let me walk you, don't walk me through, just get someone in a car and get out here and get it fixed, right?
Yep.
Let's change the script on even how we create these maintenance contracts. What if I charged you less if you were able to self-solve? What? What if I only charged you for usage? CareAR has a usage model, right? If you don't use it, you don't use it. If you use it, I don't know, let's charge you $100 per usage. Wow, that seems high. Does it seem high when your printer's not printing? No, no. You would pay 3 times that to get it done, right?
Yep.
So changing the contractual models allow for a completely different result and customer participation. If they get rewarded for self-solving, they're going to self-solve, right?
Yep.
If they get rewarded for self-solving, they're going to fund the content and knowledge creation that allows them to self-solve, right? And that builds a company's internal repertoire by which to serve other clients, right? That's the Xerox model, right? If we can fix it ourselves, this is the same equipment that our customers are using. Let's help them self-diagnose. Let's help them self-solve. Let's help them self-fix. So it's a little bit of a Tom Sawyer situation, if you can remember that, right? Where Huck is eating the apple and the other kid's painting the fence, right? And happily doing so. Can we change our service model where the client is paying us for service and self-solving at the same time, but is thrilled, right? Wow. So we have to flip the script a little bit. So there's
Yeah.
revenue to be made out here. So that's a little bit of the shift left concept, but we
Yep.
actually run into some issues with our technology. So refrigeration in large scale grocery operations, that's one of the biggest issues they have. If a unit fails, they have, I forget, it's about 2.5 to 3 hours, at which point you have to throw out all of the product within that, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
self-solving that, the issue we've had with selling our technology is, well, unfortunately, that's disparately managed by a local refrigeration company, and we've already paid them for their annual contract. So self, they don't want you to self-solve. They're not financially induced to help you self-solve.
Right.
And it's just a broken system because so I'll try to wrap it up with this is that new technologies like CareAR that come in require structural changes to your contracts and the way you talk to your clients about what success is, and the metrics by which you capture that. Right? Mean time to fix is great, but let's talk about who's doing it, and make
Yeah.
sure that that third party, if that third party refrigeration company can get paid to help remote solve, they're going to do it. If they're not going to get paid, there's a couple of nice guys out there. I'm sure they'll help, but predominantly they're going to send that truck out, and you're going to pay for it.
You know what I love about this? I'm really enjoying the discussion, Lance. You're talking about moving towards a success methodology, right?
Yes,
Where
exactly.
if it's not utilized, you're not going to get paid for it. And if there's less impact to us as the provider, and you're doing the work, well, then you're not going to pay as much. I love that, because it's kind of the convergence. If I circle back to the key focus areas from the Service Leaders Agenda survey I referenced at the top here, it's the convergence of those three focus areas of innovation, expansion of the service portfolio, and customer experience initiatives coming together, right? You're thinking about the customer, you're thinking about your offering to the customer, and you're thinking about how you're innovating in that offering. And all these things it's kind of like that's going to be our next podcast. How's that? I'll welcome you
I love
back
it.
for that one.
And even as putting a sales hat on, so if I'm in there competing against a historically aligned maintenance contract, I'm just punching them in the face, right?
Yeah.
Hey, if you don't use it, you don't pay me.
Yep.
What, you can imagine the guy on the other side of the table, like, starting to squirm, right?
Yeah.
And aligning your success with your customer success and including the financials, boy, that takes a lot of fear out of the buying process and a lot of fear out of the switching process, right? I need to switch the organization that's serving me. The devil I know is the devil I have, but putting skin in the game and saying your success is my success. Let's make that switch, and let's move into the new way of doing things. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Outstanding. So we're coming up on time, Lance. Can we, for our listening audience, just to get to know you a little bit better, and CareAR a little bit better, what's next for CareAR, and maybe something personal passion outside of work for yourself? Would love to just get to know you better.
Sure. So for CareAR, we're leaning into the content creation, right?
Yep.
So I'm sure everybody's seen AR, digital twins, and all this great stuff, and the effort behind it. So we're actually launching very soon something called content as a service, right? So instead of worrying or budgeting for each individual project, we're just going to build content for you. And again, pay for your usage, pay for content when you get creative. Some of the stuff you can create on your own. Some of the stuff is more complex. You need someone like CareAR to do it. We're creating an ecosystem of creators. So different folks that do different things, we bring them in, they work on our platform. And so we're kind of democratizing that content, because augmented reality is all about content creation, but creating things that are accessible and usable by other companies and all that. That's what we're trying to do. It's bringing more and more and more out so that customers can use it faster. So our experience builder and content as a service is something you're going to hear a lot from CareAR in 2023. And it's just a way to just use our platform more, faster, easier to deploy, and things like that. So that's where CareAR is going. Where's Lance going? Well, I love this stuff. I'm a kind of a techie. I love to talk about it with folks like you and do all that kind of stuff. I like using augmented reality in the real world. So I love cooking, right? And so cooking instruction, and one of my favorites. You watch these shows, and they throw some ingredients together, they whip it up, and all of a sudden a cake comes out of the oven, right? Like there's a lot of things that happen between the mixing bowl and that perfect cake, right? So using, I'm a big into augmented reality smart glasses, right? So when you put them on, when the third party looks at that camera, they get that point of view. So I want to start creating some cooking shows using smart glasses that are really point of view, right? Showing you stirring it, showing you cutting the knives, like, cutting skills. When you see someone chopping like this, it's awesome. But to see how to do it and to learn from a point of view, hopefully I'll have all my fingers left when I'm done with my first few episodes, and who knows where we go. So it's also an excuse for me to eat. So my wife kind of, she'd much prefer I'm eating a salad, but that doesn't make a good show. What makes a good show is slow roasted, pork ribs and things like that. So that's where I'm headed with this technology in a more fun way.
Good stuff. He is Lance Anderson. He's the Vice President of Industrial Solutions for CareAR. Thank you to CareAR for bringing today's episode to our community. Lance, I just want to thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
this insight, you offered some great tidbits of information for our listening audience who's been
Wonderful.
thanking you as well in the comments. So thank you personally for you joining, and thank you to CareAR. You can join us next time. We do this every other week. So our next guest, they're all published upcoming on our LinkedIn profile as well as on our website. You can see the next coming segments. And if you want to access today's podcast, it's available on whatever podcast thing you subscribe to, whether it's YouTube or whatever, Spotify or whatever the other ones are. And it's also available at our website, the Service Council, servicecouncil.com, or theservicecouncil.com. We own both URLs. Thank you to Lance. Thank you to CareAR. And thank you for our listening and participating audience for joining. It's been a great discussion. We'll see you on the next segment. Appreciate your time.
Cheers.